Welcome, ladies and gents, back on the show. Me and the title star of Reviews with Jake. Jake is here on the show. And
what's happening?
Hopefully we're all happening. I'm your host,
That's
Cam.
the dream. Just happening.
What the hell just happened? I'm your host, Cam, and we are talking about horror mystery maestro Mike Flanagan. You know him from all kinds of things. Helming The Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor on Netflix. Midnight Mass series. You might have also known him from his indie pictures Absentia, Oculus, and Hush, before helming bigger stuff like Ouija 2, Origin of Evil, Before I Wake, as well as the Stephen King adaptations Gerald's Game and Dr. Sleep. So, what is it about Mr. Flanagan that, as a writer, director, editor, producer, casting his talented wife, Kate Siegel, no relation, movies, composing, doing all these other shorts that are very experimental. What is it about him that you think just got the ball rolling?
I think for me, like the first film I saw of his was Oculus, and I was just blown away by the way.
That's actually how we knew we were the right choice to do these chats. It was like both saw it in like an empty theater, and we're like, horror is alive and well. It's no longer just stupid, Friday the 13th or Final Destination knockoffs. There's an actual point. No more torture porn. No more people getting killed on the internet. There's an actual, or a 7 clone. There's an actual thought process. I got vibes of like Hellraiser and like Wishmaster, kind of a monkey's paw type dilemma.
Yeah, it's funny. When I saw the trailer for it, like, I just like, it just kind of looked like, I don't know, just a regular bump in the night movie. And then, like, I remember going to the theater and seeing it, and I was just like, holy shit, this is actually, like, just the way it was storyboarded and edited together, like, with all of, like, the time jumps back and forth. It was just so seamless, and I was just blown away by the craftsmanship on display in that film. And ever since that, I've just been hooked on his films. Like,
right?
It has serious filmmaking prowess. It's ridiculous.
Right. It felt like it could have been any kind of movie, and he didn't treat the audience like an idiot. He has all these beloved character actors in unrecognizable roles. Brendan Weiss was just taken off, but I mean, you got freaking Rory Cochrane, from Dazed and Confused and CSI, Katie Sackhoff from Battlestar, and then freaking Karen Gillan, who just was starting to do, Guardians of the Galaxy the following year. And I'm just like, Jesus, where did all these beloved actors come from? And then I see Miguel Sandoval. There's a guy who's often a diplomat or, police detective. And I hear he's like the doctor who gives like the opening, like soliloquy. I'm like, okay, nice. I'm sold. Whatever you got, fling it at me. I will buy it. I will absolutely buy it.
Yeah, it was just like, it was not only just the filmmaking prowess of, but like you said, just like the acting and like the storytelling, like the real, deep dive into trauma. And I think that's kind of been a recurring theme throughout a lot of his films. You look at just any of his work, he just loves to dive into not only like when shit goes wrong in people's lives, but he loves to see like, well, let's check back in with that person how many years later and see how they're doing. And I just think that is just so fun to just experiment with trauma like that and really dive between the cracks.
And acknowledge it as opposed to make it feel like it's just a cheap plot device and you're just careless. He definitely is very meticulous about it. You definitely feel like he can relate to it, regardless of what interviews you've seen him in. I love how he utilizes all these other underseen character actors, and he's been helping launch their careers even more, like Annabeth Gesh, who you might know from West Wing and X-Files. Here she is in a lot of his movies, and she plays a lot of my favorite characters in his movies. But Elizabeth Reeser, there's another gal who was just was really awesome, and no one was giving her a chance just due to Twilight. And then Henry Thomas, grown up freaking Elliot, is like all these movies and often playing an adult version of a character. And you're like, whoa. And I saw some people who, I don't know why, is like, because I guess WWE was one of the co-founders of Oculus, they didn't give it a chance or they saw it and were bored. I'm like, well, I saw it in the theater and I was blown away. And anytime I've seen a good chunk of it on Sci-Fi Channel replaying, I have not minded. I don't see how you could get bored unless you were just, I don't know, just easily annoyed by anything. And I think the reason his other movies just keep launching is like they, again, like you say, they're very meticulous to detail, and he goes for a natural kind of surprise, and it feels earned as opposed to I'm going to be a Shyamalan, I'm going to be a Nolan, I'm going to be a whatever. But he's his own kind of special craftsman, and I think that's why everyone picked him to do Dr. Sleep. They're like, you are very attentive to detail, like a Kubrick type, without asking long hours and being on time and on budget.
Yeah, I mean, even Dr. Sleep in itself is just like another example where it's like, all right, well, let's just take up the fucked up little kid from The Shining, and then let's check back in with him and just see how he's doing.
How you doing, brother? But
yeah, like you must be succeeding all the while, right?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
It's just crazy. Like, if you just go down, like, his filmography, it's just like, even Gerald's Game, like diving into like this disgruntled couple and all of their trials over the years and everything. And then even this girl, even before they got married, and then just finding all the kind of dark things that happen. Like, it's just, he just has a way of just diving in and just slowly just kind of showing his hand, slowly but surely, just at a good enough cadence that, like, you don't lose interest, but like he just kind of slowly gives you little pieces of the puzzle throughout the course of the runtime of whatever, if it's a movie or the show, and you just slowly get a good picture of it. And it's just, I don't know, it's just a very methodical method of storytelling that's just like hard to replicate.
Well, and he had so much going for himself. I mean, you're editing reality shows, doing shorts, so working as even a computer database operator for a lot of heavy green screen stuff, like the 2007 Beowulf and Monster House, which was a Spielberg joint. I'm sure they remembered his name and said, now we're letting Amblin fund, the rights to another Haunting adaptation, but you do whatever you want with it. And so I'm glad that Netflix gave him the money. It's totally meant for streaming. I think I haven't seen Before I Wake, but I've heard good stuff about it. Have you seen it?
I have, but I haven't seen it since 2016 when it first came out.
There you go.
So that one I've been that one and Hush. Like, those are the only two that I've seen only one time.
What's funny is I know others who haven't seen any of these other movies we talked about. They've seen Hush, but for whatever reason, Absentia just got a lot of play. It was often on like Chiller TV, and you can find it on any streaming platform. But
yeah, I actually haven't even seen that one. That's like the one that I've seen everything after Oculus.
I can't get into it, but it's fairly watchable and very professionally done, so I can't take that away from him. And I think that's what got everyone noticed. It's like, okay, regardless of whether you like the story or not, this guy has intelligent characters and a good sense of lighting and professional camera work. And he even had a sense of humor about himself. I kid you not. I was in the riff tracks for him, the Mystery Science Theater spinoff project. And he was on there as himself suggesting Absentia as a movie they could riff. I'm like, I've never seen anyone do that before. Usually it's, oh, you motherfucker, you riffed my movie. And it's like,
yeah.
But yeah, Ouija Origin Evil, I think was like the third one I saw by him. And I'm like, whoa, this was made to cash in on the success of the Infamous movie from 2 years ago. It was like, this is just intelligent.
Which is hilarious, because like the first one, like the original film, was just like not very well received, and it just wasn't good. And all of a sudden we're like, all right, well,
everyone saw it, everyone complained about it, and then this comes out, and you're just like, this had no business working, but he made it work. So there you go.
Yeah.
He's not. I feel like he almost kind of went the Stephen Hopkins, Anthony Hickox way, where he was for a while. Had he been in the 80s, he would have been the go-to make a horror sequel guy, make an action movie sequel guy, make a killer mystery movie for $2 million, or 10,000, depending on what who the distributor is. But it's like, whoever it is, I can do any kind of movie, and I can do a banged up job. And I think it helped that he has the passion. You see it clearly on screen. Midnight Mass, I mean, it may not be freaky, but it's a bizarre and very disturbing tale, and you kind of want to embrace it. You want to think about it. I'm still thinking about it, as a matter of fact.
Oh, dude, I loved Midnight Mass. Like that actually came out, like, I think.
And I mean that with love. I don't mean to sound like a diss. I realize I didn't.
No, it's all good. I don't know. Like it came out around like when Squid Game came out, And I remember everyone was all talking about Squid Game, and Squid Game was cool and everything. But I'm like, why are people not talking about Midnight Mass? And
can we just focus on something we all like, guys? Come on, Midnight Mass. I haven't heard anyone bash that or say it was overrated. I've only seen on sparse occasion people who didn't like them, but it seemed like they saw Oculus or Hush and just didn't get the hype. And I don't know what to tell you because, with all the other people who are dividing their viewers like Ari Aster or even a Dog 195 guy like Lars von Trier, I don't see anything here that feels manipulative in his work. So...
Yeah, it is funny just because, like, I don't think I would, like, as a horror show, I didn't really think it was very strong as a horror, but just as, like, a human story, like, I was
kind of more gothic-y, I guess you could say.
Oh, my, like, it has the horror themes, obviously, with the creature. I don't think it's any mystery what the creature is at this point, but, obviously it plays around with the horror themes, but, like, it's more about the people around the horror versus the horror itself. It almost kind of takes, like a John Carpenter The Thing approach where it's like, the thing, like, you're not really as interested in the creature. It's more so how the people are reacting to the creature. That's the most interesting thing.
That's a good point because it does seem like in many ways, I mean, yeah, you could definitely call it a gothic vampire hammer horror thing, but yeah, you get the love of this man that you essentially feel, again, the care, as opposed to let me be cute and artsy-fartsy, let me pull an Abrams and literally take a bunch of pre-established scenes, but not even add my own touch. It's like, at least Brian De Palma really, really loved Hitchcock, so he based his career on that, And it's just really annoying how a lot of people just cannot tell the difference. It's like, now it's kind of goes into a popularity contest where they're like, well, if I hate it, I'm just going to hate it anyway. It's like, no, and no fair prejudging it, but at the end of the day, also know, what it is and why you hate it. There's a reason you hate it. So use your words as opposed to, it just sucks. Well, that tells me nothing.
Yeah, well, it's funny because, like, I've heard some criticism being like, well, it's just a lot of people talking. And I'm like, are you listening to what they're saying? Like, there's some, did
you just want gore and sex on the screen every minute? Yeah.
Well, it's such a tragic story, and there's just so much going on emotionally. Like, that show got to me on many points that I'm just like, that's one of, like, the greatest things about Flanagan is, like, he really just lets his actors and actresses just go. Like, he'll just set a camera on them and just like, hey, just act. And, like, I'm like, we're not going to bail away on any cuts or anything. We're just going to let you soak up the screen right now and just kill it. And there's just so many monologues in that show that just, like, it's like one per episode. Like, every actor gets their moment to just knock it out of the park, and they all do. It's just like,
and when you don't know who they are, you absolutely want to go back and just go back and see who, what they've done already. I'm trying to find, Flanagan's earlier short films, and I haven't been able to find them yet, even though Amazon claims they have it. But yeah, no, like you say, it is just amazing how he feels very controlled. There's other people who, are kind of getting to that point where they're almost kind of pulling a Scorsese, where it's like, okay, I love you, but this is like telling the same, old sailor joke for about the 500th time. I don't need to hear it again.
Yeah,
and
it's
the magic's gone. So it's just so much better when you got someone who, again, just really has a controlled environment, but didn't go to Jerry Bruckheimer school where he's got to have like 5,000 edits per episode, a movie or TV. And he, like you say, he knows his confines, but he has zero limitations, and he never overuses his resources to where, okay, you pulled the rabbit out of the hat way too quickly. There's always so much. Even if I've been disappointed, like I was like with Bly Manor, I mean, I don't regret it. I don't feel like, oh, you wronged me, for the wrong time. I don't feel like he didn't know what he was doing. In that case, I feel like he kind of gave it to too many people. There was too many cooks in the kitchen, but I can't blame him for wanting to, make use of his Netflix platform. He's earned it so naturally, as opposed to just being someone who right place, right time, but was just high as a kite on a, on a music video set and got noticed by a producer. No, he's been working all kinds of jobs, and he knows everything he's going to do the minute he's hired, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that was kind of like for Blind Manor. I think the problem was probably the lack of Flanagan, because I think he only directed the first episode.
Yeah, he just gave the budget and helmed like the beginning and end episode, but it was like, yeah, I think he would have handled all those flashback scenes way better. But still, kudos to him for making an atypical kind of story very intriguing. You don't want to fast forward. You don't feel uncomfortable. You don't feel like it's too bizarre or just a bad Twilight Zone episode. You do legit feel very intrigued and engaged, and every tragedy on screen, you do remember it, but it's never a cheap shock or just an excuse to have someone inevitably die. You really do feel like it's like, wow, okay. like the Oculus final plot twist, that was one of those, oh man, I could not grit my teeth.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. For anyone who's seen it for the rest of the night, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I actually just like rewatched it just the other night, just to I've been kind of going down memory lane.
I don't know if it's that. Would you say it's the performance in that scene, or the Foley, or just everything? Is the lighting?
Oh my god!
In that final twist,
it's just so haunting, and then just the way that it cuts together in the exact.
And you don't see a gruesome image. Your mind puts it together. That's what makes it even scarier. It's like, wow, I didn't know my mind could be that graphic.
And then he just continues to just kind of, do some of the more cutting back and forth between the two different times when he was a kid and when he's an adult. And it's just like, it's just haunting.
Haunting.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, like, that's just kind of the thing. Like, and then the same thing with, like, when I watched Hill House, and it is really, I actually just rewatched Hill House recently, and we had a weird, itch to watch it. I watched it through start to finish for the third time. And like, man, like there are a lot of interesting parallels between Hill House and Oculus, just because both of them are kind of dealing with traumatized people after the fact, after seeing some shit when they were kids, and then jumping back and forth between the present and the past in very seamless ways. And man, he just has a way of just kind of getting you so invested in the characters. And then
he doesn't do any fancy wordplay. He doesn't do any dialogue where you're like, that's one or two predictable lines I could have written and could have been stripped away. He's just meticulous. He's just, he clearly has watched a bunch of short films, maybe in festivals, and said, probably done trial and error. Like, okay, I made it, but I'm losing my own patience and energy. So what do I need to amp up the scene without just feeling like, adding random lens flare or, fancy music playing in the background? I don't need any of that. I just need another 5 more rewrites, and it's good.
I mean, hot damn! Like, if you want to talk meticulous, I mean, how many of the oneers that are in Hill House? Like, I think it was the episode called like Two Storms, where like the first half hour there's 2 cuts in the whole thing, and it's just following, like, walking the camera around it's the funeral home at first, and then they go to actually, I'm pretty sure it actually goes with an unbroken camera move from the funeral home into Hill House when they were kids. Like, it goes from the future to the past, and I'm like, how big was this fucking set? Like, they just walked in from this funeral home, like, and then go in, and they're walking into Hill House now, and like,
I do have to applaud them for that, because there's so many other people who just don't make good use of their technology, or they abuse it to where you're like, I'm sorry guys, nothing against you, it just looks fake as all get out, and clearly there were millions spent on this, and he just has good free time to, hey, I'm gonna literally, what keeps you on edge, and you get a sense that he storyboarded, that he had a shot list, that he had so much staging and rehearsal. And
it has to be all rehearsal. I mean, at that point, when you're just walking around with an unbroken take like that, and obviously he probably hit a few little cutting points in there, but like, it's theater at that point. Like, the camera becomes a person, like a member on stage, and all the actors and all their movements, it has to be so well orchestrated, and like, it's just so damn impressive. And then he even slips in, like, then there's the whole other thing of slipping in all the ghosts throughout Hill House, like in the background, like just these little meticulous things, and like any
Easter
other
eggs for those who he knows are going to rewatch it. That's so damn cool.
Oh my God. Like the first time I watched the movie or the Hill House, I loved it. Did not notice a single one of those ghosts. And then I read some article about them. I'm like, are you serious? And then I rewatched it. And I was looking for them. I'm like, how the hell did I miss these things just hanging out? Like, especially in the funeral home when they slip Nell in there. And I'm like, she's just standing there. Like, what? How did no one notice this? How did I not notice this? Like, it's insane. Like, it's just, and any other filmmaker would probably like accompany like that kind of a thing with a dunt or something like that. But he's just like, we're going to put it there. If they notice, cool. If they don't, whatever. Like, it's just so cool.
And that's when is like, again, that's not being cute. That's someone who is like, the right people will find this. You know, that's an extra joke to an already winning, you know, stand-up performance. You know, it's like there's a few little extra ones sprinkled in for the. I mean, come on, that's why people watch sitcoms like Psych. You know, it's like there's one or two other references where it's like, oh man, that's really meta. But that's after everyone has gotten all the, you know, 5 other sorts of different kinds of humor. You know, that are the main jokes. So it's like, it's cool to have this extra set in his roster that is like, okay, well, so I've unleashed all the tricks. Now I'm showing you how I've made the magic. That's part of the twist. And then I'm doing like 1 or 2 other things that, oh man, that's an Exorcist reference. That's a Halloween reference. That's a, you know, that's another love letter.
He's really good at slipping that kind of shit. Like, you know, of course in Hill House, and like, you know, I noticed the laser glass on the wall during, you know, it's in one of the areas of Hill House. They have the mirror from Oculus sitting on the wall. And I remember pointing that out like fucking Leonardo DiCaprio and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I just pointed out and looked at it, and then obviously reusing all the same actors and actresses and seeing them in different roles. I'm like, holy shit, it's that person. Like,
Gerald's Game and the other ones might even all be connected. So yeah, it's the Flanagan cinematic universe.
Yeah, and so it's like, you know, even if you don't notice these little Easter eggs and stuff, like, you know, like there's still just like a fantastic story. And the fact that there's like little threads just kind of tying them all together. And it's just like even rewatching Hill House, I didn't even realize that the actress, I can't think of her name, the one that plays Bev Keane, the crazy religious lady in Midnight Mass, I didn't even remember her being in Hill House. And then all of a sudden I'm watching, I'm like, holy shit, it's her. And like, she's the writer's girl or estranged wife. And I didn't even realize that it was her. Like, that actress, I didn't even realize she was like a recurring actress in Flanagan stuff. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, well, there she is. Would you look at that? A little more pleasant in this role than she was in Midnight Mass, but excited all the same to see her again.
Fortunately, Wikipedia has been a help, just like with Joel Schumacher and Scorsese and Spielberg. They have a whole giant table listed of everyone who, you know, has worked with him on different projects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he has a lot of good Canadian actors too. It's great.
Yeah, I really dig. Oh my god, I can't.
Oh, someone had a funny Reddit. Kristen Lehman, who you might know from shows like The Killing and Altered Carbon. She's been around forever. She's very gorgeous blonde, but pretty cool, mysterious actress.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so funny how she apparently is reading a book that she coincidentally is quoting or reading in an X-Files episode she guested on years ago. So that's like, someone made a Reddit of that. It's like, they're literally seeing the actors in every other thing. And you're like, oh.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It all comes full circle. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. And I'm so excited too that like the next piece that he's getting his hands on is working off of an Edgar Allan Poe The Fall of the House of Usher, which like I guess that's going to be like his next little house, I guess, you know, anthology, I guess. But like, I can't wait to like, he just has a weird ability of just being able to take a story and then just kind of, he doesn't really make like an adaptation. I don't know. He does something completely different from it. Like I'm not much of a reader myself, but after having seen The Haunting of Hill House, I actually watched the I read the Shirley Jackson book, and I'm like, this is nothing like what he made. But he just kind of found a way to just kind of make it his own. And he kind of did the same thing with Blind Manor.
I did see a few people doing that. You're like, it's not anything like the book. I'm like, well, fuck your book. Seriously. Someone was dedicated to making a comprehensible plot, and it was inspired by, so there was already an invite for,
well, the other thing too is like,
game.
In terms of like Blind Manor, it's like, okay, well, if you really want something loyal, you can just, I've never read The Turn of the Screw, but I mean, like, there was a movie, The Turning, that got released earlier in 2020 that was an adaptation of the same story, and that was kind of shitty. But, it's like,
yeah,
hey,
that's basically how we got the rights.
Go ahead. Yeah,
those were both by Amblin.
Yeah, it's like, hey, if you want to watch something loyal, like, go watch a shitty movie, but we got some quality cinema here. Just kind of go with the flow.
And I mean, that's what was interesting with The Shining, is like, it's kind of a sequel, but I got to say to Stephen King, hey, it's not a sequel, everyone's happy.
Yeah, he just has a way of just kind of getting his hands on different IP and just kind of doing his own thing with it. And it's kind of like, I never read Gerald's Game. I don't really know how close of an adaptation that is to Stephen King's work on that one.
I guess enough that he's like, sure, do whatever.
Yeah, I mean, then you go, you look at Ouija, and it's just kind of like taking that. I mean, at least that one, he just kind of said like, all right, well, it's kind of connected to the horrible movie that already exists, but he just kind of has a way of elevating existing stories, and it's a very cool little ability he has on being able to do that.
1000%. Well, this has been a delight, Jake, having you on here, just kind of summing up this winning style and signature of his material. What do you have coming up on your podcast?
So I do the movie reviews that I do every single week over at Reviews with Jake. That's on YouTube as well as Instagram. I see a movie every week. Most of the time it's a new one that just got released, and so I dive into that a little bit. Not as in-depth as I once did, because I felt like, I was spending too much time reviewing movies and not enough time making my own. I'm also
content.
an indie. Yeah, so I'm just like, I need to kind of reprioritize a little bit. So I only do really short stuff right now, at least until next Saturday, when is the big principal shooting day for the shoot that I've been in pre-production for.
Oh, nice.
So making a short film that I've been planning for and itching to get after, and finally getting that rolling next week. So I am really excited about that.
Best of luck on that. It's not easy, even for a short,
Yeah, it's a crazy amount of work, and just leading up the trail, going up to it, and all the planning and just the shot lists, and oh my God, it's been a long time coming. It was actually a film that I wanted to film during COVID, but I just kind of drug my feet on it quite a bit, and now it's getting filmed during, well, what I like to call not COVID times, but it needs to get made all the same. So I'm really excited to make that bad boy. So that's going to be diving into that one here shortly, and still continuing to review movies, and while still working my Monday through Friday as a media producer, content creator for a production company here in town. So no shortage of shit to do, to say the least.
Fucking awesome.
Oh, man.
Well, you're welcome back anytime. Any other filmmakers or singers or even film franchises we should try replanning, regrouping. I know we have
I'm all for it, man. This is a lot of fun. We should definitely let it rip again.
Let it rip. Yeah. Awesome. Stay safe out there. Keep plugging away at the show, and hope the short goes well. No COVID outbreaks. Just all safe.
I appreciate the hell of it, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up review show.